Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to Ask Us Anything for Online Reputation. So it's a little bit different format today for our Power Panels webinar, but we thought that this would be a really good time to talk about online reputation and answer all kinds of questions that you have burning and waiting to be asked. So now's a really good time too, because it's starting the busy leasing season. So we start to see more people accessing all of those reviews and checking us out online even more than normal around this time. So you have with you today Leah Nicole Smith and myself, both of us obviously part of the education team at Satisfax and Apartment Ratings. And I know that we are in good hands because Leah is probably one of the best experts on online reputation in our industry. So we are going to share all kinds of information as it relates to questions you already asked us via our online form, but we also have a cool way for you to ask us questions live today as well. So we're going to get started and kind of talk a little bit about what's going on with online reputation and how this is going to work today. So if we can go to the next slide there, Leah. All right, so how you're going to ask questions today. So you're not going to use the questions box, although you absolutely may use the questions box on GoToWebinar if you have any issues or if you just want to ask a question not particularly related to what we're talking about. Go ahead and use that question thing. But for all questions that you have today, you're going to use this QR code. So if you can get your phone out and scan that QR code, or if you're on a desktop, you can always go to slido.com and enter the meeting code there, which is 370370. So great ways to ask all of those questions will be through Slido today. But like I said, we have some questions already set up for you as it relates to what we heard from you from our online form. So we'll get to those as well. So while we're waiting for everyone to join us today, we want to start out with trying to see how is Slido going to work for you. Let's check it out and see what you're all thinking as it relates to reputation management. So scan that QR code. And the first poll we're going to ask is if you can describe the phrase reputation management in your mind in one word, what would that one word be? So go ahead and jump on Slido and put in what you would describe reputation management as in one word in your mind. Thank you for those of you that already responded. Those are fantastic.
Melissa, I don't know about you, but I have more than one word. It's so hard to sit here and figure out like, do I go with a positive or do I go with a negative? I guess it depends on any given day, you know, which one I think. I don't know. It's a tough one because there's so much about it, you know, and to some people it does have kind of a negative connotation. There are some that, you know, feel very strongly as consumers, you know, and so reputation management is super important. So we just love to know what you guys have for us on the call.
Keep those coming through. What do you think, or what's the word that comes to mind when you think reputation management? I like, Leah, that the biggest one in here is that it's important. So that's
I am all about it. Yes, that's fantastic.
That's a really good word. I enjoy the honesty there of exhausting and annoying. So also thank you to you.
We like crucial. That's really good too.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep using this Slido platform as part of the Ask Us Anything. So in just a bit, we'll open up the Ask Us Anything portion of it. But again, I mean, I love that the big word here today is important, and that's not to downplay any of the other words, right? We're going to address all of them, how to maybe make it less annoying and exhausting for you. Maybe, you know, make it be less, you know, of a negative, you know, sort of thing, because there's a lot of positive stuff that comes from, you know, a great online reputation in regards to just telling a story to future renters and what future renters can expect should they decide to lease at your community. And it's, it's part of education, right? It's part of helping renters make better decisions, in my opinion.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you for participating in that. Hopefully that got you ready to go. So we thought we'd run down how things are going to work today for our webinar. So we are here for 60 minutes. And the good news is we do recommend taking notes, obviously, but you will get a follow-up email after the session with not only the recording, but also the slides that you see today. So if you need those or you're like, oh my gosh, you will still get those too in a follow-up email. As a reminder, if you have any questions, not necessarily related to reputation management, you can use the questions box. But everything else, we're going to use that slide that you already used with your QR code. So go ahead and keep that open. And then at the end of our webinar today, we love feedback. We want to hear how we're doing too, so that we can always make these better for you. So there is an exit survey at the end of the webinar. If you could, please, please, please share your feedback with us. Give us a rating and comment if you will, and you might be showcased on social media. And as a reminder, we have these webinars the third Thursday of every month. So we have one coming up in July as well, which is actually a really exciting one. This is the halftime show for the EPIC rankings. So you'll get to see the top companies and communities in the country as it relates to their EPIC score from apartmentratings.com. So we're excited about that. And then the best news of the day, I would imagine, is our contest. So if you don't mind, we're going to post a social post right after the session. And all you have to do is like that post and comment with your one online reputation takeaway. So it can be something you learned today. It can be something you're going to do differently after the webinar today, based on what you learned. So all you have to do is like that post and comment to win.
Yes, and who does not want to be a winner?
Yes, yes. All right, and if you are familiar with SatisFacts, you know that we have a ton of recordings from previous Power Panels webinars. So if you missed any of these great sessions, you can access them at any time at satisfacts.com. So all you have to do is go to the education section and you will find all of the links for all of these sessions. Lots of good stuff out there from a lot of panels of incredible experts in the multifamily industry. All right, so we are going to hop into talking about reputation management. If you just joined us, don't forget, use this QR code for the questions and answers. And we will move on to the next slide.
Okay, I am moving on. I know, I'm trying to move on to poll number 2. There we go.
All right, so if you have a question just burning and ready to be asked, go ahead and type that in to Slido. So if you just joined us, go ahead and scan that QR code with your phone, or you can join at slido.com and use the number 370-370 to ask us questions. And Leah is going to keep track when those questions come in. So if you don't mind, go ahead and use that to ask any questions that you might have. And Leah, like I said, she'll keep track of that for us. So go ahead and put those questions in, and we'll make sure to answer those throughout the webinar today. So we thought really to start, we wanted to talk about, in order to really understand your online reputation, you first have to really think about, why does it matter, right? Why are we so concerned? Why is it so important, as the word cloud described earlier? And when you think about it, when you look through like a buyer's journey, right? This is what the buyer's journey is. So the first thing is that stimulus, right? So they're either, maybe they had a life-changing event. So maybe they've graduated school, or they, got married or changed jobs or something like that. Or maybe they're just frustrated with their current living situation or the current community that they're at. So they have this stimulus that says, I want to start looking for a new apartment. And what happens typically when potential renters start their search, they search more broadly, right? So they start looking for things like apartments in Atlanta or apartments in St. Louis, depending on where you're at. So they start broadly and they start looking at it. So then they start to see probably your ILS listings like apartmentratings.com. They probably see your website, things like that. They're going to see all of those pieces there. And then once they start to decide, and they'll see reviews as well. So they'll start to see some of those reviews as they start narrowing down their search, right? So they've broadly searched, they're starting to think about maybe these 3 or 4 communities. That's when they start going to reviews. So the reviews are really going to differentiate you from those comps that they're comparing at that time. So like I said, reviews really become an important piece when they start narrowing down their search. And what that does is that determines who they're going to reach out to, whether it's they call your office, they email you, they fill out your online form, or they physically come to your office for a tour. So really, once they narrow it down and look at those reviews, those are the ones that are going to say, I'm not going to reach out to this one, or yes, oh my gosh, I have to call this place, or I have to check this out to see what everyone's talking about. So that's that first moment of truth. Then that second moment of truth comes in when they actually experience your, anyone that's on your team, they experience, that whatever it feels like to show up at your community, whether that's a response from an email that you sent or a call, how friendly that person is, or if it's when they actually physically show up, how did that tour go? How did your community make them feel? That's that experience. That's that second moment of truth. And that ultimate moment of truth is when after this buying journey, they've chosen you, yay, right? We're excited. They chose you, and now they feel so compelled about the experience that they've had at your community that they write a review. They add content for you online. So they're helping to boost your brand, to boost your reputation because of the wonderful experience you provided them. And what that does is that sort of circles back around, and that ultimately becomes someone else's zero moment of truth, right? They start to access that content from that resident that you really provided an amazing experience for. So it comes full circle, and that is really that gold standard, right? When someone is so happy with their experience at your community that they write content for your brand, for your community, that's the goal. That's where we're trying to get. So this is just what that buyer's journey looks like. And I love the Maya Angelou quote that says, people will forget what you said and forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And if you do it in such a way that they feel compelled to write a review, then you've really hit the jackpot, right? That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think what we've seen in the past, and I'll just go by my 11 years here, but in the beginning, reviews were just sort of like, yeah, if they're out there, I'll take a look and see what people have to say. Maybe I'll use them, maybe I won't. But over the years, you have had buyers just in general really integrate reviews into their purchasing decisions, right? So what we started to see was a shift in renter sentiment. So how do renters start to use online reviews, and where have they started to place their trust in terms of online reviews? What's super interesting is that the year 2018, we say that this is the year that changed the marketing game for multifamily. And it's not necessarily something that happened with renters specifically. It's something that happened with consumers in general. There were double the amount of online returns in the year of 2018 than in any year previously. And so if you all have ever made a purchase online and you relied on the reviews, and then you open up that box and you're like, womp womp, what did I just purchase? Or this looks nothing like the photo that, I saw online. The next purchase, you're going to approach it differently. It changes your behavior. And so because there was such a large number of online purchase buyer's remorse, if you will, in 2018, it changed behavior for the way consumers shop for anything. And so if you look at in terms of where they place their trust now, prior to 2018, it was all about friends and family. Tell me what you think. I want your opinion. Hey, do you have an idea? Any recommendations? And after 2018, and this comes from our online renter study, the trust starts to be placed primarily on user reviews. Like, what has your experience, been like? Hey, lady, that top that I'm about to purchase, you purchased it. Were you happy with that purchase? What happened when you opened the box? So knowing that we now have renters who are relying more on online reviews, it's important, to Melissa's point, to make sure that when they're in that zero moment of truth, they're getting as close to what reality looks like at a community. So, if the reviews are, maybe just kind of, one-sided, or if the reviews don't give them enough to go on, they might be 5-star reviews, but doesn't really tell a great story. They need to really feel like they're being educated when they're looking at these online reviews, which I think is fantastic that they're even paying attention to these online reviews. So I know that we have a couple of questions that are coming in, which is fantastic. We want to get to some questions that have come in during the registration process as well. So Melissa, I'll let you take this first one.
Perfect. So I think this is probably the #1 question that I get asked, I'm sure Leah as well, when we talk about online reputation at different conferences. People just want to, how do we get more reviews, right? That comes up all the time. And we understand, because you want to have more reviews, right? Quantity is super important, almost as important as quality, right, when it comes to reviews. And if you don't care about the online reputation stuff that Leah and I just talked about, reviews are also one of the main factors influencing a company's local SEO performance too. So when you think about it, it's not just about, prospects seeing that. It's also about how often are you going to come up closer to the top of the list when people are searching. So they're there for 2 reasons. There's, we want people to love the stories that people are telling, but it also helps boost your performance in terms of SEO. So something to think about. So it's a good question to ask. And there are so many ways you can do it. And I would love to hear what some of you are doing as well for this. So we have just a few thoughts. And, one of the biggest things is they've shown that when there's some kind of, and I use this term very loosely, I don't mean transaction, but a lot of times when there's a transaction of some kind, that's when people are most likely to offer a review, because there's some kind of stimulus. So what we have on these first 4 are prospects, when they come to tour your community, when you have a new move-in, when someone has a work order, or they're getting close to the end of their lease and they're trying to decide if they're going to stay or should they go. So should they stay or should they go now? So you want to find out, those are those sort of transactional moments, or those moments of truth in the resident life cycle, that there are opportunities to ask for reviews. So Satisfax obviously does a good job in terms of, if you have our verified resident program and our insight surveys, you can have those automatically go during those touch points. But you can also do it manually. So if you have a prospect, get a business card and have your QR code to your apartmentratings.com or your Google or your Yelp page, and make sure it's a direct link, and have that handed out. How did I do today? So that way that they know, this is where to go, because a lot of people don't think about offering their feedback and how it can help others. So asking for it is really the way to get it, and make sure that they understand, this helps us too. We'd love to know how we're doing. So QR codes are really good, especially if you're handing out, a business card, or like for work orders, if you have like a little postcard that you can put that QR code on, that's helpful as well. So anytime you have those, you can do that with those physical pieces of paper. But as I have in these bullets, all follow-ups should also include, how did we do? Let us know here. So you can do that in your follow-up emails directly, so that it's more personal. So how did we do? We'd love to hear your feedback. You can click here to, review our performance. You can also just add it to your email signature line, which I think is something that not a lot of people do. But adding that to the bottom, just how did we do, and have those links. And maybe you change up those links sometimes. So if you need more reviews on apartment ratings right now, you can have that link on there. And then maybe in a couple of months, you have, you had a really good response on apartment ratings, so now you want to switch it to Google. So you can just add that link in that signature line so it's always there, or like I said, make it personal and put it in the email for follow-ups. Another one, obviously, is at events. So when your residents come to events, obviously they're in a good mood, right? Hopefully your event's going well, they're happy, they like to be engaged with you, you're speaking to them individually and celebrating them. And so that's a really good time to ask as well. So have those times when it's a review, or when it's an event, so that you have everyone there. You can use the little QR codes as well. So that's also a helpful way. You do want to make sure, when you're asking for reviews, you've got to be careful. And one thing I caution you on is sending like a mass email with the request to have reviews, because when you get a huge burst of reviews at one time, a lot of the review companies get a bit suspicious. And so then they think that they're fake or somehow something happened, and these are not accurate reviews. So I would make sure that they're spread out and not all coming in at one time. That's why those touch points are super effective for that purpose. So another good way to do it. A couple other things, if you have a resident portal, that is a really good place to remind residents that they can review you there. So, I know if you have like a Yardi, Rent Cafe, that kind of thing, they offer like a pop-up, which is sometimes helpful. And that one allows you, if they've seen it once, you can then turn it off so it's not annoying. So you could do a pop-up every once in a while, or you can just have it in like the comments section, like when on their homepage, when they log in with a link, you can add that stuff there. So that's a good place to do it too, especially if they're getting on their phones onto the resident portal, because that's when they're more likely to write that review, is if they're on their phone. So a really good way to do it is your resident portal. You can always do it through newsletters, things like that, if you have those. If you're physically printing those copies, make sure you put that QR code on there. If you're emailing it, obviously, those are better to have links if you email, because obviously people are probably on their phone. They're not gonna be able to scan a QR code that way. So newsletters are a good way. The other thing that I came across, and the website is at the bottom of this slide in case you want to see it, but if you're interested in more Google reviews specifically, there's actually a marketing kit available for free if you have a Google My Business page. So if you're interested in that, it's got some cool things like stickers and things like that that you can print out and all of that to increase your Google reviews as well. So that's the website on the bottom. And a couple other tips just to one thing I saw, which I think is super interesting, and this was from Review Trackers, that they said there's actually the best opportunity to ask for reviews where people are more likely to write them are between the hours of 2 and 3 p.m. and 6 and 7 p.m. I have no idea why. I don't know if it's just because it's later in the day, they get tired, or they just get home from work, or they've had time to kind of wind down a bit, and then they'll get on their phones and start playing. But that's when they're most likely to actually leave a review. So if you are going to email them, or if whatever you're doing, if you're following up with people, that's the best time to send that follow-up with that link, because those are the times you're likely going to get them to put that review out there. Another thing, if you do get reviews, make sure you thank people. Thank them when you're talking to them, just thank them for being a resident, but also when you get those, make sure you thank them, especially if you see them in person. Thank them in person for that feedback, because you want to continue getting that feedback, even if it's not from a review. You want people to be able to share how it's going with them. And at the end of the day, obviously, those incredible, memorable moments that you create for people is really what's going to drive getting the quantity problem solved for reviews. So just continuing to really provide that incredible experience is going to get you much further as it relates to asking and getting reviews.
All right. So I personally have two moments in time where I think asking for reviews is going to you're going to get the yes. Number one, for your prospects, as soon as their application is approved, that's when you do it. So congratulations. We approved your application. Cannot wait to have you be a part of the community. And by the way, that's where you ask for the review, and you want to position it, or I always positioned it like your story can help another prospect, right? If they're from out of town, your story can help with other, potential renters who are looking from out of state. Or if they had to do everything online, if you can talk about the ease of our application process, making them feel like an expert. They can share some expert knowledge. And I don't know if any of you out there, maybe show of hands, everyone has a little hand icon. If you do like a maintenance week where you recognize your maintenance team, we used to call it Star Week. It was Service Tech Appreciation and Recognition. But if you all have a Star Week or you have a maintenance, appreciation week, that's a great time to ask your residents to write a review about your maintenance team. One of the biggest online complaints when it comes to apartment reviews has to do with maintenance, not being able to get things fixed in a timely manner, or they're writing a review while there's still something broken in their home. So if you all have great maintenance stories and your residents are saying, our maintenance team is fantastic, and let me tell you what they did when, our parking lot was snowed in, or they helped me after hours with whatever, the issue might have been for them. Telling a great maintenance story is something that is, that gives you, the biggest bang for your buck, because a lot of reasons why people even leave where they're currently living, has to do with some kind of a maintenance, type of an issue. And to have a prospect write about their experience as a prospect is tribe speaking to tribe, right? It's one prospect speaking to another prospect, kind of giving them, what it was like to be, in that same kind of, phase in their apartment hunt. So those kinds of things can be really, really helpful. So again, we do have some questions coming in. I just want to show this once more in case you're are joining a little after we started. We are taking all of your questions on slido.com. You can click on that QR code if you like to enter in your questions. We do have some, and I'm going to jump to those in just a bit. I wanted to address, though, the questions that were coming in from from those who registered for the session. So we asked, someone asked, what can they do about fake reviews? Now, this could be a review that is from, someone who doesn't live at the community. It could be someone who maybe was an ex-employee that's posing as a resident, just kind of a disgruntled kind of situation. There are a variety of things that you can do. First and foremost, you want to flag that review wherever the review has appeared, whether that is on Google, Facebook, Yelp, Better Business Bureau, wherever your reviews are coming in. You want to flag that review so that it goes directly to that platform's abuse team. We have an abuse team here that works nonstop, and they have definitely been able to identify, fake reviews that were maybe not written, according to our terms and conditions. Those are obviously would be step number one. Flag the review so that at least that review can go through an investigation process. You can also respond, and when we say respond, we're not saying like, hey, I know it's you, Susie, who we fired last week. It's more so speaking, it's unfortunate to hear this was your experience, or this was the experience of your friend who lived at our community last year. So you can, in your response, make the public aware that this person didn't necessarily live at the community. Maybe they're reporting it, kind of hearsay, or, the experience of someone else who, didn't want to take the time, or was too, shy or whatnot, hesitant to write the review. So your responses can actually be pretty helpful in that too. Melissa, I'm going to flip over to our Ask Us Anything, because we do have some questions that are coming in, and let's address those before we move on. We'll address a couple of them. Oh, here's one. How do you handle reviews left by non-residents? There you go. So yes, if the story in the review, you can tell it's saying, my friend lived there, and, every time I went to visit her, XYZ was happening. You want to incorporate that into your response itself. You want it to be, it's unfortunate. I don't like to use the word, the phrase I'm sorry, but it's unfortunate to hear this was your friend's experience here at the community, and then what are you doing about it, or what has been going on since, what can you do about it. But you do want to, is the non-resident review considered a fake review? It's not necessarily considered a fake review if they are speaking about a specific experience at the community. So if they're saying things like, I visited this community, or I had dinner with my friend who's a resident, and this happened in her building, something like that. If they have some type of firsthand knowledge, it's not considered a fake review. What would be considered a fake review is someone who did not have that experience at all. They were not, in that situation. I'm seeing the comments that are coming in. What about people who are not on our list of someone who lived there? No mention of friends. Report the review. That's the best that you can do, is to report the review. There's not a way really for any abuse team to determine, this person, we can tell, didn't live at the community. It may not necessarily be deleted. So that's where your response is going to be helpful in that. But just because it's, they have mold and, things like that, we can't tell that this person did not live at the community. If you respond to the review and find out they didn't live at the community, can it still be deleted? That is solely at the discretion of the abuse team or the investigation team, whomever is in charge of that particular platform. You can absolutely give that information to them, but there's not a guarantee that that review itself will be deleted. That's the only thing, is, it's kind of hard to prove that kind of stuff. Things that are easier to prove are reviews that are coming in from the same IP addresses. We call those stacked reviews. How about reviews that have gobbledygook in there other than words? Yes, you can absolutely report those. What may happen is the gobbledygook will be removed and your star rating will be there. We know with our verified resident program, people who participate are required to have a certain number of characters in that review itself, because we feel it's going to be able to tell a great story. But you have some who participate, they do the star rating, and then they just do XYZ, XYZ, all over the place. You can report that. Again, it may be edited to where the star rating will stand. If not, then in your response, that's where you can put, thank you so much for rating our community, whatever that rating is. Or you could, for apartment ratings, look at the specific categories. If they gave you a perfect 5-star for the neighborhood, or a 5-star for maintenance, or something like that, you can add a little bit more detail into your response based on what you can see in terms of the information that they were willing to give you. But you have to also, and I guess this is kind of for everyone, you have to give the reader some credit, right? If the reader comes across a review that has the gobbledygook in there, they're not going to really pay attention to that. Reviewers need to have a good 4 to 6 reviews. They need to read 4 to 6 reviews, and this is not our data. This is according to Bright Local. They need 4 to 6 reviews before they feel comfortable that they have a good grasp on what service looks like from a company. So as long as you have, 4 to 6 really solid recent reviews, and when I say recent, within the last 90 days to 6 months, you don't want to have 6 reviews and they all, they're from 2020 and, and up. You need to have some good, a good chunk of reviews that are pretty recent, 4 to 6, that you feel are going to tell enough about your community to where someone's going to, feel really confident that they've learned enough about what's happening. Melissa, do you want to take, I'm going to scroll down. I think I have another one. Okay, the thoughts on trying to get reviews removed if they aren't relevant to your business, or if they're threatening comments made in a review. What situations would you say getting a review removed would be acceptable?
Ooh, yes. So I think anytime you have reviews that you think, are threatening in any way, obviously those flag those, let the abuse team know, because those are ones that, we certainly don't want to put anyone in jeopardy. So some of the obvious ones, threatening, if someone's threatening and they put a name in there, getting some of that removed is a possibility when you flag it and report that to the abuse teams. But a lot of times, I think we need, as Leah mentioned before, to give consumers a bit more credit. They are becoming much more savvy. So when there are things that you obviously can tell are either, not real or, extreme in some way, most people will disregard a lot of that, like extreme stuff, or they look for things that will confirm their thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Confirmation bias is real, right? So when they start to see things that sort of jive together, and then they see this one that's just way out there, they tend to your consumer will understand that and understand that that is an outlier. It's either not real or, it's one time that happened. So your response to those is so important, that they can see that you are taking care of whatever issues do come up at your community. So responses are way more important than a lot of people think, especially when, as you're as a consumer, you're going out there and you're looking, when you see people respond, you kind of take from that how the customer service is going to be if you choose to buy that product or you choose to live at that community. So give them a little credit. There are things that are obviously, threatening and things like that that will be removed. Others, it's just a case-by-case basis. So you'll have to contact the abuse team, flag it if you think it's questionable in any way, and let that team at whichever platform determine whether or not that breaks the rules for their platform.
Yeah, I think in the past, one of my biggest fears about getting like a negative review was like the long story. Like they leave like, I mean, it's a novel that someone would type, and it's just, problem after problem, and this didn't go right, and I hate this, and just over and over again. Those types of reviews are the most annoying now to someone who's actually reading the reviews. They don't want to know, like they don't want to spend 2 hours reading about this one person's experience. What they're trying to do is collect a general sense of what the experience is going to be like. So if there are multiple mentions of, extermination problems, they're going to believe that to be true. If there are multiple mentions of the office is fantastic and maintenance is, it's so easy to get things done in my apartment home, they're going to believe those things are true. So what you want to look at, I think, as you're reading your reviews, look for patterns, look for echoes. What are the things that people are saying over and over again? Because to Melissa's point, that's what is going to create the perception for someone who is considering the community. If there's one review out there that says they had mold in their apartment and no other mention of mold exists on your review site, the way that someone's going to take that is that's an outlier. Like, what are the chances that is going to happen to me? Because from what I'm seeing, it only happened to one person. I only hear it from one resident. So it's okay to have the outliers. If there's a negative thing being said here or there, you definitely don't want the negative things to be mentioned kind of over and over again. So Melissa, I'll let you jump on in to this third question, and then we'll go back because there were some more questions being entered in.
Okay, wonderful. And I did see one question on there. If you want to access the previous recordings from our power panels, you can go to satisfax.com and just click on the education tab at the top right, and that's where you can get them. If you are a Satisfax client, remember you can also access all of this content quickly and easily in our Exchange reporting platform. So those are places you can get those. All right, so how do I get more positive reviews? So I love that it's always positive, right? So we want to get more positive reviews. And the one thing I want to make sure everyone's aware of is I just don't want you to be afraid of reviews that are a little less than favorable. Everyone is always afraid. They want to have like this perfect reputation. They want all these 5 stars. But frankly, you guys, that is not what the consumer is looking for. If they see a community that has all 5-star reviews, are nearly perfect, they're going to start questioning if that's real or not. They're going to think, how is that possible that something like that's happening? So based on our research, we have found that people want to see that score between like a 4.3 and a 4.7. So you do not have to be perfect. In fact, it's okay. We're gonna make mistakes sometimes. People understand that. And as Leah said, that feedback shift, people are starting to understand what to look for. So it's not that, you obviously want to get positive reviews, and obviously the best way, as I mentioned before, is to create those incredible, memorable experiences. But if there are times where we have someone that had an experience that didn't go quite as we had planned, it's about how we recover, right? How do we handle that after we made a mistake? Did we take care of it in person with that prospect or resident? And then if they do post about it online, how do we react to that? So being really careful with how you respond to those reviews, making sure you're not defensive in those responses, but that you're helpful, you're thoughtful, you're making sure that you're finding a solution for that prospect or resident online, because that's what people are looking for. But if you're looking to sort of enhance how many positive reviews are coming through, there are a number of different ways you can do that. The one on here is my favorite, and mostly because I'm biased and I love our action plans, but you can do this without the Satisfax action plan too. But if you have Satisfax and you're using our surveys or our manager center, you're able to go there and look through all of your reviews, look for trends, see what's going on. If you have insight surveys with us, you've met with Leah and I, we've talked about what are the top things that you need to work on at your community and create an action plan around that. And what that does, so if you don't have our services, you can also still do that by looking at your reviews, look for patterns. What's going on? What do you see most often? And I caution you, again, when you're getting reviews emailed to you, so if you get the apartment ratings reviews emailed to you, or if you get the Google reviews in your inbox, remember, don't get caught up on one less than favorable review that comes in and really focus on that. Because remember, that's one person's opinion. So it's better to take a broader look at it. So if you have Exchange, look through it all at a higher level. Same thing, look through your reviews, look for those patterns, because that's what's going to help you. And then create action plans around that. So pick, 2 things that your team is going to focus on for like the next 6 months, and really determine with your team, create kind of a team building activity too, but get together, brainstorm things that you can do to improve that 1 or 2 things that come up most often. And then what that does is it gets everyone on your team running in the same direction on the things that are going to make the biggest impact for your residents or for your prospects. So I can't stress that enough. The action planning process is probably one of the best ways to make sure that that experience is there where you want it to be, so that when people are ready to post a review, they have the experience to go with it. So really focus on those action plans, and that's going to move that needle for more positive reviews. Another thing, and Leah alluded to this earlier, is to include specifics when you're asking for reviews. So as Leah mentioned, move-in time is a really good time to do this, because as long as everything went as it was planned, they probably had a really positive experience with your team. And so that's a really good time to ask and be specific. We love, you came from out of town. We'd love for you to share your experience for others that are coming from out of town, so that they know how it feels to do that same thing, to experience that with our community as well. So be specific. You were out of town, or, if you had to, maybe if they came to one of your events or something, help them by saying, you came to one of our events, we'd love to let prospects, other people know, how these events go, how our residents feel about them. So ask them to review something specific. And a lot of times that's helpful for the person to know what to say in their review. Another one is getting those passive voices. So if we're talking about organic reviews, we all know that a lot of times the organic ones are the ones that when someone's really, really angry, right? That's when they go out there, they search for your community, they find you, and they write a review. But finding those passive voices, that's when you really start getting not only more positive reviews, but a more authentic version of your story showcased online. And that's really what we're going for. I think we need to switch the whole mindset of positive reviews to authentic reviews, because as long as we're doing the work and we're creating that experience, that's the authentic vision that we want people to see when they look online at reviews. So get those passive voices in all the ways we talked about before. In your follow-up emails, that's a good way to do it. Using our verified resident program hits it right when you need to. So if you need, we'd love to talk to you about that, obviously, but you can do that manually too. So in your emails, at events, handing out those business cards or postcards after the work order. That really helps to get those passive voices to tell their story online. And again, making it easy. So you can't just say at your events, hey, do you mind like sharing your feedback with us on one of our review sites, and then say like Google or something like that, or apartment ratings? Because what happens is that's way too much work. There are too many steps for them to find your community. Well, first of all, find the website, so Google apartment ratings. Then they have to find your community. They got to make sure it's the right community. Then they have to figure it all out. So giving them the direct links is going to make it so much easier for them, and they're much more likely to give you that review. And the last thing on here, we've got to be really, really careful about incentivizing reviews. So this comes up a lot. And I know companies back in the day, they used to do contests, right? So if you leave us a review this month, you're entered into a contest to, win a gift card or a rent credit. And that sounds really innocent, but unfortunately, that is going to be attacked by the FTC. So you've got to be careful, even if you're not asking for positive reviews, which I must note here, don't ask for positive reviews directly, but make sure you're not also including a contest or something like that, because if you do, that has to be disclosed in the review itself. If the person that leaves the review didn't disclose that they're doing this for a contest, you have to do it in your response to the review. So the FTC is really cracking down on this stuff, so we've got to be really careful about how we're doing that. So best bet is just don't incentivize at all. And another piece of that is also review gating, which is just posting or only, either posting or allowing to go through just positive reviews and sort of hiding the reviews that aren't quite as favorable. They're also cracking down on that. So if you have anything that's suppressing reviews that come in for any reason, that is something that the FTC is looking for. So you want to make sure anytime a review comes in, no matter what it says, it's being posted, just to make sure it's authentic out there. And the FTC is really looking out for consumers. They want to make sure that people are getting a real version of the truth when they're looking at reviews and they don't feel deceived in any way. So lots of different things. And I wanted to give a shout out to Courtney too, because she is so right. Maintenance is the biggest source of positive reviews. So that team alone often gives us the best source of those positive reviews. So have your maintenance teams leave those little QR code postcards.
When maintenance is going well, I mean, your residents love your service team members, right? The scores that we have for maintenance being courteous and professional are like off the charts on our surveys, because fantastic group of people that really work hard to make sure residents are comfortable in their home. And when maintenance is going well, that's a story that your residents want to tell. So going back to an earlier slide in the webinar, when Melissa was talking about the 0 moment of truth and how leading through that experience, getting to that second moment of truth is going to impact someone else's story. So if those stories are talking about how fantastic your maintenance team is, a la Courtney, it's definitely going to help with those who are potentially considering your community. We have 2 more questions that came in for our registrations. And then I have, I think, 1 more that came in through the Slido app. So we're going to kind of try to speed through this to make sure that we address all of the questions. So managing an overall really good online reputation, think about your responses. So if someone were to compliment you in person, how do you respond in person? Should be no different than responding online. Someone says, I think your maintenance team is fantastic. I'm going to recommend that everybody lives here. You're definitely not going to come back at them with, thank you for your feedback. So happy to hear you love living here. The response that you give is going to be more sincere. It's going to be warmer. So having those kinds of opportunities inserted into your responses goes a long way with a reader. We always say write for the reader. Give the reader a really good sense of what your customer service looks like through your responses. We, in our online renter study, we asked respondents how quickly should you respond to a positive or negative review. Most chosen for both positive and negative is within 1 business day. Second is within 2 business days. They're willing to cut you a break, right? They're willing to give you a little bit of time considering, but after that 2 business day time frame, it really starts to break down their perception of customer service. You can always ask your residents to participate with some user-generated content. What is that? That could be something as simple as attaching a photo to a review that they leave for you. Maybe it's they have a fantastic view off of their balcony. Maybe they can, give a good idea of what a fully decorated kitchen looks like, or their patio or something like that. It's content that someone generates on their own, a video, maybe a little walkthrough tour or something like that. You could use it for your social media. You can definitely put it in your reviews. On apartment ratings, residents have, or reviewers have, the ability to not only post a photo, but they can also post a video. And the thing with these videos and these photos is that they all go through a review process. So we watch them, we monitor them. So, don't worry about any crazy something that might be not safe for work kind of stuff that gets posted along with the reviews. So we have a team that monitors all of the photos and all of the videos prior to them posting on a review, but they do have the opportunity. So if you have residents who would like to contribute any kind of content in that way, I think that really does help to substantiate your professional photos, right? You have a photo of your swimming pool and it looks great, blue skies, all that kind of stuff. If a resident has a similar photo, it just says it is what it is, right? The pool is the way that the management team is telling you that it is, because here's my proof. So those kinds of things can be really, really helpful in just keeping that online reputation. And I think some things, when it comes to online reputation, we kind of get stopped at the star rating. What is my star rating? It's way more than that, right? It's the stories, it's the responses, it's the quality of the review, it's the information that someone's going to get that helps them feel very confident that they're picking the right place. I don't know what markets you all are in, but I know your rents are really sky high right now. So whatever leverage you can, have to get someone to, they have to feel a heightened level of confidence to give you that, price increase, on your rent, or to, pick you over a competitor. So having a really solid, well-rounded reputation is better than having, in my opinion, a perfect 5-star on Google or 5-star on apartment ratings. Those things tend to actually work against you, to Melissa's point. So Melissa, we're going to take the last question that we have, and then I'm going to flip over to the app so that we can answer the questions that are coming in over there.
All right, sounds good. And this one's a pretty simple one. So a lot of people ask us, can we get negative reviews removed if it was from a previous management company? And the short answer is no. So they cannot be removed. It's really to show just the overall, you want to make sure that the authentic voice is out there. So if something happened before you started managing it, it still happened, right? And so that is there. There are tools, though, that you can use to make it better. So the first one is something that we just added, at least on the apartment ratings site, and that's our events timeline. And you can access that in the Manager Center piece of Exchange, and you can add in there the timeline. So if you changed management, you can add that in. Reach out to us after the webinar if you need to know where that is, but it's super simple. In the apartment ratings section in Exchange, you'll see events timeline, and you can add that. And that timeline can be for a lot of different things. So maybe you had like a water main break and a bunch of people, started talking about it and your response to it. So if that happened, you can also add something like that into the timeline. Or you had a a huge remodel or something like that. You can add a bunch of those big things that happened at the community in that timeline so that residents and prospects know. Another thing that's important to note is acknowledging the change in management in your responses. So finding a way to say, we apologize for that experience. We took over on X day. Our goal is to do X, Y, Z. And so that is a good way to make sure that when people are looking at those reviews, that they see really quickly right in front of them that there was a management change and what you're planning to do. And then the last thing that we recommend too, and it's a super easy thing to do with Satisfax if you're interested, but we offer takeover surveys. And that's just a way to find out before, right when you've taken over a new community, to get yourself sort of a baseline or a benchmark idea of what's happening at the community. So that way you know how to prioritize things at that community, whether it be capital items that need improvement, or if it's just a resident sentiment thing. What's top of mind for our residents here? They're new, we want to get to know how we can make this better for them. So a takeover survey is super powerful, and it offers you that benchmark so that if you continue to do surveys or things like that, you can show in like case studies and just that story of how you've improved that community, and you have data to back it up as well. So a really good tool to use to get a baseline to understand what you need to do to make improvements at that community.
Yeah, and
Okay,
in addition to having the date that the new management took over in your timeline, having it in your responses, you can also put it on apartment ratings in your community description. So I would, in bold, under new management as of March 1st, 2022. So anyone who's reading your apartment ratings reviews, they probably aren't going to look for anything older than March 1st, 2022, because, again, they might do it to get a sense of like, okay, are people still having a problem with maintenance? Are they still having a problem with, XYZ? But all in all, having that date there almost is like a stop sign for someone who is looking at your apartment ratings page, because they're going to know that that was prior, that was the past, and they're going to be concentrating more on the now of it all. So a couple of questions. Is it true that the more people who flag a review or report a review, it increases the chances of it being removed? Not necessarily removed, because in order to get a review removed, it has to violate the terms and conditions of the review platform. But what happens is if you downvote, right? You downvote this review, depending on the platform, it might be placed in a different location, if you will, like additional reviews or not recommended reviews, to where people would have to go to another part of your review page to look at those. Or just by wisdom of the crowd, if you see 15 people have downvoted this review, someone may read it, but psychologically, does that really play into what they decide to do with that review? All of that, again, is going to it has a lot to do with what the reviews in totality have to say. So just flagging or downvoting the reviews, it doesn't necessarily mean that the review will get removed. It's just more so like education for the next person coming along that's going to be reading those reviews. And then depending on the platform where those downvoted reviews are going to be housed, they may not be on the main screen of your review page. Melissa, you have anything for that one?
Nope, I think you covered it.
Okay. We had someone who did a move-in survey and was confused by the directions. Yes, this happens. It doesn't happen often now that, but it does happen on surveys, because you do have some people that kind of, rush through things. Is there a way that they can resubmit? Unfortunately, if it's a Satisfax survey, and I'm pretty sure this goes with all, once it's locked into the vault, it's locked into the vault. But a one-star review or a one-star survey factors very little in the grand scheme of things. So let's say someone accidentally gave you all 1 stars, and then your next 20 surveys are accurately scored, that 1-star review isn't going to carry a whole lot of weight. If it's a 1-star review itself, yes, they can go back and re-rate that review, because if they give you 1 stars, but the words of the story are great, they can always go back in and edit their review. But if it's an actual survey, because surveys are data, right? It all tallies up to something. They're locked once surveys are completed. There's someone says we use a widget to display reviews on our website. Okay. If the widget only shows your positive reviews, you are really skirting the line of review gating. You are not necessarily limiting, maybe somebody did give you a 1-star review and they were able to actually write the review. So you didn't gate the review itself, or you didn't gate the reviewer. You didn't prevent that person from writing a 1-star review, but you are presenting a could be creating a false perception for a consumer. And so the FTC really does exist for consumer protection. And so if your widget is not going to show the 1s, the 5s, and everything in between, I would be very wary of that in terms of the FTC, because of the past rulings that they have had with other companies. So other companies, we talk about this in some of our sessions. Fashion Nova was fined $4.2 million for only showing their 4- and 5-star reviews on their website. So that could be, kind of in this area. So that's, that's something just to kind of think about. What's the difference between flagging and requesting it to be removed? Flagging it does request. So you're saying, hey, take a look at this review, right? We're going to flag this as check this out, because there may be something. On some websites, it's called report. So you would click on report. Some would be flag, right? Flag that review. So it just depends on the verbiage that each platform is using. But typically when you flag or you report a review, you're going to be asked why you're reporting that review. And so you can tell, why you want that team to further investigate the review. And they'll go in and, do whatever it is that they can do. Let's see. I'm going to see this last question. I'm going to turn it over to you. Breakdown on how things are weighted for Satisfax. Oh, great question. So Satisfax surveys, there's no weighting on a Satisfax survey. It's all equal weighting. On apartment ratings, on an apartment ratings review, equal weight to all of the review categories. So your noise, your office, your neighborhood, your maintenance, your grounds, all of those carry the same weight. The only thing that we have that is weighted is our EPIC index. So the EPIC index, there are 4 components of the EPIC index, and each one is weighted differently. So your overall renter rating, that's 40%. Your review count is 30%. Your review engagement is 20%, and your reply time is 10%. So there's 4 components, and if you just think of it like 40, 30, 20, 10, and you go kind of from left to right, or you go from top to bottom, depending on how you're looking at your EPIC index, that's how we have the EPIC index weighted. But Satisfax surveys and apartment ratings reviews, those have equal weight. So there's nothing, weird with or nothing to kind of figure out with that one. It's just the EPIC index that has each component is weighted differently. All right, Melissa, we're going to turn it over to you to close it out and tell everybody about this contest.
Yes, thank you for sticking with us. We appreciate you staying an extra couple minutes. I hope you gathered a ton of information today. We do have additional webinars out there, as Leah mentioned, but we also have one about the FTC in our education library. So if you're in there, check that out. That'll give you more tips if you're concerned about any FTC guidelines. Now, the good news is we have a contest to win a $50 Starbucks gift card. So we already have the social media posts out there and ready to go. So right after today, if you can, follow us on Facebook at Satisfax, or Instagram at Satisfax Education. You'll see a photo out there with the Ask Us Anything little picture out there. If you can go ahead and like that or heart it on Insta and comment what you'll be doing differently in the future after you've attended this session. So something that maybe you were doing, you're going to change it up, or maybe it's just something you learned that you're going to start doing. So comment one of those things, and it'll close at 5 Pacific tonight, and we will be announcing the winner tomorrow morning for that $50 Starbucks gift card. So thank you so much for sticking with us. We appreciate you, and good luck with your online reputation. We hope to see you again next month on July 21st, same time, same channel, for our July Epic Rankings, the live event. So we're going to talk through all of the top, or at least top 10 of the companies as it relates to their Epic ranking, and also the top 10 communities. So we can't wait to see you there and shout your name at the top of our lungs. So thank you so much. Justin is asking to go back to the social slide, if you don't mind, Leah.
We got you, Justin. We got you.
All right. Thank you for that. I need to add QR codes there, I think. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
So
we are excited.
We hope to see some great comments and get some winners out there. So Satisfax on Facebook or Satisfax Education on Insta. Let us know if there's anything different you're going to be doing. And you have until 5 p.m. Pacific? Yes.
Yep.
Which is 8 p.m. Eastern, which I'm Eastern, so I always have to like convert that in my brain. Perfect. All right, Melissa, I will let you call it a day for the group.
All right. Thanks for joining me, Leah. Appreciate it. And thank you all for being here. We hope to see you in July.
And if you're going to Apartmentalize next week, we will see you there. Anyone going, safe travels, and hopefully we'll bump into you.
Yes, please come to our booth. We'd love to say hello and chat up all things resident experience. So
thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye-bye.